I want everybody to give a warm welcome to the one and only, the Philly Godfather, professional sports bettor and sports handicapper, gambler. He was on New York Times. You'll catch him on Fox Sports, Sirius XM, ESPN, Fox Business, Fox and Friends. Twitter handle is at Philly Godfather. How you doing, Philly Godfather?
I'm doing great, man. I can't believe I've been on all those different shows and different newspapers and different TV shows, radio shows. It's been an amazing ride. I remember when sports betting, people looked at us professional sports bettors as something that was taboo, something that was in the shadows, a bunch of shadowy figures, and that was the furthest thing from the truth. To me, it's always been a business. It's a market like any other market, and you're just trying to find clarity in the market, find some value, and when you find, value and you like the price, you end up purchasing it, and hopefully you make some money. And that's what it's all about: turning a profit day in and day out. Whether it's daily games, futures, you name it, division, games. It don't matter. We bet on anything we think we have an edge on, and if we find that edge, we're going to fire.
I love that. I love that so much. So what was your best bet that you've ever had? Let's say what's that one that you just cannot forget about, and your best memory for your best bet?
Man, there's been so many of them over the years, and this previous Super Bowl had to
I
be
was
one
just
of
going to
my
bring it
best.
up.
Yeah, I mean, 50-1 on Tampa Bay, and I actually gave it out to everyone on Twitter back in March before they announced they got Tom Brady. I had some information that he was coming to Tampa.
Oh, wow. That's
And
awesome.
on the previous on some previous radio shows before that, I had mentioned how if you took any other quarterback, if you took a Drew Brees, if you took a Tom Brady, if you took an Aaron Rodgers and you put him on that Tampa Bay team when Jameis was the quarterback, that team, that nucleus of that team was so good that they could make a Super Bowl run. And if you guys remember, Jameis threw 30 interceptions that year. And anyone who handicaps sports will tell you each turnover was worth about 6 points to the point spread. So Jameis had given his opponents 90 points on the season. That Tampa Bay team was one of the highest scoring teams that year with Jameis at quarterback. They had one of the best defenses, run defenses in the league. And their defensive metrics were actually skewed a little bit because they were on the field so long because Jameis was either throwing quick touchdowns or throwing a bunch of interceptions to turn the ball over. So that defense was even better than what their metrics indicated on paper. So I knew once they got Tom Brady, they were going to go and secure that offensive line. They went out and got Tristan Wirfs. They were going to go get some other key components like they did, like the Gronk and a couple other guys. And, it was just an amazing run, one of the greatest bets I've ever made in my life. Another bet that I didn't cash that was a great bet, 2017, I had Carson Wentz to win the MVP at 50-1.
Got injured.
Remember, yeah, he was lighting the league on fire and he got injured. So that was, that's what happens with a lot of these futures. There's a lot of liability. There's a lot of variance involved, especially if a key component like Carson Wentz gets injured. You got to rip up that ticket. That's just two of them. I had Texas Tech against Virginia a couple years back at 85-1. Now, that ticket didn't win, but we made so much money on the hedge. And what I try and tell people all the time is when you're betting futures, you don't necessarily think they can win the whole thing. You're hoping to go deep, whether it's in March Madness or in the NBA playoffs or, in the NFL in the playoffs. So you can have some free money. You can hedge the other side and make some free money. So that's how we approach the futures market. And we've done great, with futures over the years. We had the Eagles in 2017 at 40-1 at the beginning of the year. 2018, if you talk to Cap, my good friend David Kaplan, he'll tell you I had the Bears at 95-1 to win it all that year. And to me, that was one of the best bets I ever made, even though it lost. Because if you guys remember, the NFC was wide open that year. The Eagles barely beat the Bears on that doink-doink.
Why'd you bring that up, man?
We're still suffering.
Barely beat the Eagles, right? And the Rams barely beat the Saints. So if the Bears make that field goal, they might have been in the Super Bowl that year. That's how close the NFC was. So that's just a couple of tickets off the top of my head.
Right. And even if you think about that game, back to the double doink, which is just so painful every time I talk about it. If you look back into the regular season, we whooped the Rams, right? So if we would have went, who knows what would have happened. But Cody Parkey is not allowed in Chicago, to say the least. But speaking, you're talking about,
I think that was a Monday night game. Was that a Monday night game or a Sunday night game when the Bears in Soldier Field And we all know Jared Goff folds like a cheap suit under pressure. And
Right.
that Bears defense just annihilated them.
It was a Monday night.
I was gonna say I think it was either I want to say it was a Sunday night and it was Bears home game if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
He was terrified of Khalil Mack. I remember when they were doing the top 100 players in the league and they interviewed after that year. He was like, dude, the most terrifying player to play against is Khalil Mack. So it's always good to know now that we have Goff in our conference or in our division for he's on the Lions. So it's always good to know that he's a little scared when he plays us. You were talking about Wentz though. Did we dodge a bullet as Bears fans? I know you're a Wentz fan and you're I assume because you're an Eagles fan, but what do you think? What do you think about that? Did we dodge a bullet, and then how do you think the Colts are going to do with him?
Well, first off, I'm a money fan. My allegiance is to my
Yes, sir.
I better get the Eagles all the time. That's sports bet. Was I happy the Eagles finally won a Super Bowl in 2017? Absolutely. But with this whole Wentz thing, I remember being on Cap show, I think it was last year, and he asked me about Nicky Foles. And I told him the truth. I said, listen, if you don't have an offensive line to protect Nick Foles, he might not last the season. He might not, he might not make it. He's so fragile. He's a poor man's Tom Brady. If you give him a top 5 offensive line, Nicky Foles will look good. And, Carson Wentz in Philadelphia had one of the worst offensive lines in football this past year. I think they gave up 65 sacks on the season. And, he was running for his life. He was holding on to the ball too long. He was staring down his receivers. And he looked a little shell-shocked to me. Now he's moving to a much better situation in Indianapolis. Indianapolis has top 5 offensive line, top 5 offense, top 5 defense. Frank Reich, great coach, knows Carson Wentz's strengths and weaknesses. I'm not sure if he went to Chicago that he would have the type of success that I'm predicting he's going to have in Indianapolis, in a dome stadium where the weather doesn't affect them, where they got great running backs, great wide receivers, one of the best rushing defenses in football last year. I think they were number 1, number 2. It was either them or Tampa Bay. So he went to the right team. And Frank Reich, like I said, knows his strengths, knows his weaknesses. Physically, he's an amazing quarterback. Mentally, I don't know if he's all there. I mean, he took some, big shots to the head. If he went to Chicago, I don't know if your offensive line is strong enough to get over the growing pains with Carson Wentz. New team, new offensive coordinator, new coach. That all takes a little bit of time to gel. So maybe Chicago wasn't the right place for him, but I think the right place is Indianapolis. And one of my sharp handicappers that works for me on the website, phillygodfather.com, he actually took Carson Wentz at 40-1 to win the MVP this year. So watch out. He could have a big season.
I like that one too, and I really think that it's a possibility because if you look at the season that he had with Frank Reich, and it was an MVP season, right? So I could see that. Should I toss some peanuts on the Colts to win the Super Bowl then?
Man, you're getting some great odds. The nucleus of that team is so solid. And I always tell everyone, when you're looking to bet these futures, look at the nucleus, okay? And then obviously the quarterback is big. Teams that have great pass rushes usually get deep in the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. And we witnessed Tampa Bay what they did this past Super Bowl against Kansas City. Mahomes is a great quarterback, but that pass rush was just in the Super Bowl. Kansas City's offensive line was a little banged up. I would nibble a little bit because, now that they got Carson Wentz, they're going to go address any other weaknesses they have on that team. And this is the year for the Colts to try and make a run. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be there again. The Super Bowl hangover absolutely is 100% real. We see it every year. You got to watch out for the Chargers. Justin Herbert, Rookie of the Year. They're going to be a lot better. The Colts are dangerous. Cleveland Browns. You saw that team. I mean, they got a lot of stud players on that team, and Baker looked like he stepped up another level this year. And they're missing a couple pieces. You saw how they secured the offensive line and how their turnover differential changed from the previous year. They were one of the worst teams in the NFL the previous year in the turnover differential. And then last year, they were, I think, top 10. So that's huge. Teams that, win the turnover battle are going to win the game 80% of the time and cover the spread over 80% of the time. So your offensive line is so big, and this Colts team has a top 5 offensive line. So, yeah, I would take a little nibble on this Colts team to win it all next year.
I think I'm going to throw some peanuts on it too because, why not? And then every year I'm a Bears fan, so I always waste $10 and I put some money on them to win the Super Bowl at the end of the year. What's wrong with my Bears? Why can't they ever get a good quarterback? Why is everything just so trash?
And how did they
Even Nick
address
Foles,
it?
I like the guy, but I don't know. I don't know.
I don't. I tell people all the time, like some of the biggest wagers we make are usually when a team's missing two offensive linemen or a couple guys are banged up on that offensive line. Because if you don't have an offensive line, you really don't have a team. I mean, if you can't protect your quarterback, and I don't care who he is. Now, obviously, if you got a running quarterback, a mobile quarterback like Russell Wilson, like Mahomes, like Deshaun Watson, you can hide your inefficiencies on that offensive line. But the Bears have some big inefficiencies on that offensive line. And
Mm-hmm.
until they secure that offensive line, it really doesn't matter who their quarterback's going to be. They're not going to have huge success on offense. Their defense is always playing lights out over the last couple of years. They really have to spend some money on that offensive line or make the right personnel moves, or else it really doesn't matter who their quarterback is.
So do you see them going drafting an offensive lineman in the first round then?
I don't know, man. Chicago does some crazy stuff with these drafts. I know
Who
I would.
knows? Who knows?
I know I would pick some offense. That would be the first thing I would go after: secure my offensive line, get a
Right.
strong defensive line, and then you make the move for the right quarterback. I mean, they passed up on Deshaun Watson. They passed up on
Yep.
quarterbacks over the years.
Yep.
You know, it is what it is. You know, I love Chicago. You know, I've done ESPN Chicago so many times. David Kaplan's a personal friend of mine. I love the city of Chicago. I don't want to say it's nothing negative, but you know, they make the bonehead moves sometimes. They get some brain cramps in these drafts.
No, you're not going to get any argument from us for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we're just too reactive, Chicago.
Speaking of the draft, really quick, do you think the Eagles draft a quarterback, or is Jalen Hurts the guy moving forward?
I think he's the guy. I think he's the one that he surprised me. I didn't have high hopes on him. And I knew he was a great runner, you know, but he really impressed me throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
His reads, the quickness from snap to delivery. That's what I always look at on these quarterbacks, because the guys that get rid of the ball quicker, you know, are usually the guys that have most success. If you hold on to the ball too long, you're in trouble. And I think he's the guy moving forward. Now, they got big problems on that offensive line, so thank God he can run around a little bit, scramble, run the ball. But yeah, I think Hurts is the guy moving forward.
Okay.
So I'm a Doug Peterson guy. For me, when I see that a coach goes to a team and wins them a Super Bowl after not winning the Super Bowl ever, and then you fire him, I kind of think that's like a scumbag move. Do you like Doug Peterson? Do you think he's going to get a job anywhere? Do you think they overreacted? What do you think?
I think so. I mean, I remember when I was younger, all these coaches were on 5-year plans to win, you know, to go deep or win a Super Bowl. This guy did it right away, and we never had a Super Bowl. They built a statue of him, Nicky Foles. So yeah, I think, but there was a lot of internal stuff going on, a lot of bickering, a lot of emotion involved. Doug Peterson, to me, I mean, you had to keep him. He won you a Super Bowl. He made the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years, and he actually outcoached Belichick in the Super Bowl, which nobody ever does. And you know, he's got some big cojones. 4th and 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now it's hard to go for it on 4th down all the time when you don't have, you know, the right players. You know, when you don't have the beast on offense, the guys on defense. You know, it's hard when you don't have the right guys in place. So it works better when you got more talented players and, you know, all the analytics and all that stuff that they do. But I think they overreacted. I like Doug Peterson. I mean, I think he did a great job. He won us the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was a little baffled when they fired him. But it is what it is. It's a business like any other business. Some teams make mistakes.
Exactly. Well, I hope he gets a job somewhere soon. And yeah, I just hope he gets a job somewhere. But where else are we going to transition into? After Philly, we're going to still keep it on Philly. Let's talk about basketball really quick. What do you think about the Sixers?
I don't know. You see what happens when Embiid doesn't play, and anytime Ben Simmons is the leading scorer. I think they're a little overvalued here. I know they got the best record in the East, but there's a bunch of teams ahead of them that have a better point differential on the year. The Nets have so much firepower. Milwaukee's still good with Giannis. The Sixers are missing. I can't put my finger on it, but they're missing something. And I mean, they're a great defensive. They got a much better coach this year in Rivers, but I don't think they're the cream of the East, but they're close. And if they can, you know, they're close. They're close.
So you're telling me that if the Bulls meet them in the first round of the playoffs, that we have a chance? That's what you're telling me.
I don't know about that. I think you guys were playing pretty good basketball this year, and you guys were making me some money.
Yeah.
What did you guys win, like 3-4 in a row lately? So
Yeah,
uh,
I think I'm on fire right now. I think I'm at 6 in a row right now, but
yeah,
it's pretty
that's all.
good. It's pretty fun.
They're on a good little run. I think they won 7 of the last 10. The Bulls are playing good basketball, but in a series, if the game tightens up a little bit, Embiid's how do you stop Embiid? I mean, he's probably going to be the MVP this year.
I was
You
gonna
have like
say,
500 on him. He's playing lights out, especially with AD going out with LeBron. I mean, the workload is just too much for him. That Lakers team isn't the same team, and I think they have either the hardest schedule moving forward or the second hardest in the West. So I think they're going to realize that they need to put it on cruise control before LeBron gets hurt. And I think Embiid's. I mean, I think he gets the MVP this year. And Sixers are tough, man. Sixers are tough. I just think the Nets, with all that firepower, even though they don't play any defense, they're just so good.
yeah, I think the Nets are gonna take it all, which is sad to say too, because I am a Bulls fan, but I know this is gonna be hard to hear. I'm also a Knicks fan, so it's weird. Yeah, you don't really see a lot of Bulls / Knicks fans, but
You love misery, don't you? You must love the misery.
dude, literally, I'm a Bears fan, a Knicks fan, and a Bulls fan. I'm here for pain. That's what I'm here for. But yeah, I do think that he is going to win the MVP. I do not think that the Lakers are all that either. I think the Lakers are overrated. I think that if one little thing happens with Anthony Davis, they're screwed. I would not put. Even if they're a full team, I wouldn't put money on them to win it all. But LeBron has screwed me about 4 times when I said that. So
Yeah, never count out LeBron.
yeah,
It's hard to repeat in any sport. I mean, we saw the Chiefs; they tried. It's just difficult. Even though LeBron's, one of the best we've seen in our times.
right.
This Lakers team without AD, they're not the same. I mean, you saw it. The Jazz, what were they, laying 9 the other night, and they just crushed them. I mean, the Jazz is playing some good basketball. Phoenix Suns, another dangerous team.
I feel like they
get some great odds on them.
They're one piece away.
Yeah, but they're playing some good basketball. They've beaten a bunch of good teams this year. I think they got the third best point differential in the West, so they're not a bad team. They're right there. Jazz is unreal. I mean, they're playing lights out. Is anyone going to stop them? That's the real question.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about who's going to stop the Jazz in the West Side. Maybe the Clippers, but I can't even imagine that one. Maybe the Nuggets, but we'll see. Real quick, we're gonna let you go, but I want to move it really quickly to college basketball. We got March Madness coming up. If I'm correct, did you say Texas? Put money on Texas?
I bet Texas at 25-1. Earlier in the year, I thought it was a good bet. Team to me though has been a little immature lately. They're missing their foul shots against Baylor. They were in that game. A couple brain cramps with like 50 seconds left. They had the league against Texas Tech. They lost that game. Played Villanova early in the year and only got to the foul line like 6 times. I think Villanova got there like 20 times. But they're the type of team that has the talent. They have the coaching. They play the right type of tempo, slow, methodical tempo, and they got some great talent on that team. 25-1, we bet them early in the year. I'm not sure what the odds are now. They're probably like 15-1 or 17-1. I thought that was a team that could go deep. Definitely an Elite 8 type of team. Gonzaga, obviously, I don't know who's going to beat that team. They've been unstoppable. They beat everyone on a neutral court. Iowa, they beat Michigan. I mean, they beat everyone early in the year. Virginia, they beat West Virginia, and they did it on a neutral court, which is even more impressive. They're just so tough to beat. Their point distribution is something that I look at is amazing. They're averaging 93 points a game, and I think only 21 or 22 come from 3-pointers. So they can beat you in so many different ways, where teams like Baylor, they depend on the 3-point line so much. I think 37% of their points come from the 3-point line. So teams that depend, so much on that 3-point line, if they have one bad shooting night, in March Madness, which, they're playing back to back to back, it's grueling. They might, they might not make it. So teams like Gonzaga are tough. Michigan, another team that's really tough this year. Iowa has some value. Villanova, but yeah, I like Texas, and I took Texas and Illinois at the beginning of the year. I got 25-1 on both teams, so I think they can go deep. Not necessarily win it all, but they're going to be there at the end.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say a couple prayers for Illinois, and hopefully they make
I
it
was
there.
gonna say same for Illinois. They're coming off that loss against Sparty, Michigan State.
Mr.
But
Izzo.
Yeah, it happens.
you think they make a run in the tourney?
I think so. I think they're built
I
for a long. I think they're strong. I think they're good.
Um, so next week I have Cap on the show. So I will say hi for you, but is there anything you'd like me to say to him besides that he's a flipper?
He's the greatest dude you'll ever meet. I love him.
Yeah,
tell
he
Cap
is.
I
He's
said
a great guy.
He's the best, man. He's the best. He does so much, for Chicago. He's got the biggest heart in the world. Anytime he comes to Philly, we hang out. He's just the best dude. I love him, man. That's all I can say.
That's great to hear. Yeah, he's a great guy, and I'll give him my best to you. But hey, Philly G, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We appreciate you.
Awesome.
And man, I am a huge fan. You got me into betting and everything, and it's just amazing. And I really appreciate it all. Do you have one more thing really quick? Do you have any advice or anything you can give to the listeners without giving too much away? Just any advice? Mine is always to say don't chase, but do you have any advice?
Sometimes the best bets that you're going to make, you actually don't make them at all. So you decide to, you don't have to bet every night.
Thank you.
You don't have to bet every night. If you don't like the board, if you don't find no value, if the board's a little fuzzy, you have no clarity, you don't have to bet. That's the option a sports bettor has. You don't have to bet. So find your edge, identify your edge, find the right price, and then you got to fire.
That's the perfect example for 1-800-GAMBLER.com. If anybody has a problem, 1-800-GAMBLER.com. All right, Philly G, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we'll do this again soon. It was a pleasure. Thanks again.
Good stuff, guys. I'll talk to you.
Thanks, brother. Bye.
Take care.
You good?
Awesome. Yeah, dude, I really appreciate it. Thanks.